I have spent a lot of time today talking about anniversaries of one sort of another, but our next speaker, Richard Cordray, is responsible for an essentially brand spanking new organization, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I recently watched Richard testify before Congress in what seemed like a truly grueling session to me. Richard was undeterred. He was neither wooed by the kind words nor resentful of the critical ones. I came away from watching him, as I hope most Americans did, with the impression that he is a deeply, deeply decent and thoughtful man with an enormous job. The hearing itself exemplified for me what we are all up against: a lack of faith in both our governmental organizations to protect us reasonably and in our financial institutions to do the right thing. A large portion of that mistrust flows, in my view, from a lack of information and understanding. To that end, Richard is also tasked with and committed to increasing financial and economic literacy for our citizens, and he's built a great team to do that. But this is far from a new role for Richard. As Ohio State Treasurer and later Attorney General, Richard has been looking for new and better ways to protect the consumer, including ensuring that they are all better informed. In a recent speech, he said, "In the United States, financial education is at least as fundamental as the typically mandatory education we all receive in American history and government. If we intend to foster and maintain the kind of society we desire to have, then we must make a point to arm our fellow citizens with the wherewithal to stand on their own 2 feet and make sustainable economic choices." Couldn't have said it better. Please welcome Director Cordray.
Thank you, Nan. And I was also interested in your reference earlier to the so-called workshoppers, and it occurred to me that some of the battle for hearts and minds in this space are between the workshoppers on the one hand and the shoppers on the other hand. Often the war rages within the same body and soul of each of us. So I am very glad to be here today with each of you and very much respect, support, and want to be standing behind you and with you in the work that you're doing. And Nan, you and your entire team at the Council for Economic Education are to be commended for the work you do to help teachers introduce 5 million students a year to economics and financial literacy. You and so many people at this conference are leading the way forward. The economist John Maynard Keynes was once asked what interest is. According to a biographer, Keynes replied, "If I let you have a halfpenny and you kept it for a very long time, you would have to give me back that halfpenny and another 2. That's interest." Of course, that is not Keynes's most insightful comment on economics, but it may be his earliest. He was 4.5 years old at the time. Clearly, we cannot draw too broad a lesson on early financial education by studying the childhood of the man who went on to write his renowned treatise on the general theory of employment, interest, and money. But we can say this: it is never too early to begin teaching our children the economic and financial concepts that will help them understand the nuts and bolts of how to make their dreams into reality. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau certainly thinks so. And so we've made it a cornerstone of our strategy to start early and sustain financial education over the entire course of a young person's education. Aristotle said, "The neglect of education does harm to the political order." Although he made that observation more than 2,000 years ago, it still rings true today. And as everyone in this room knows very well, the neglect of financial education can certainly undermine progress in a nation organized around a free market and founded on a regime of personal responsibility, as is true of what we have done here in building this society in the United States of America. Yet Americans have neglected this important matter. We see it every day in the personal struggles of individuals and families. We see it more broadly across entire communities that are still digging through the residue of the recent financial crisis. Many consumers make bad decisions because they do not understand their choices, or they simply do not know any better, as the FINRA financial capability studies amply demonstrate. And some unscrupulous businesses take full advantage of those consumers, and that's part of the job that we have to do to protect those consumers at the Bureau. At the Consumer Bureau, we're deeply committed to a vision of America where everyone is financially educated and financially capable. We believe that financial education is the key to individual empowerment, because when it comes to financial matters, nobody cares as much about you as you care about yourself. Nobody understands your needs and wants, your hopes and dreams, as well as you understand them yourself. So everyone must recognize that most fundamentally, I am my own first line of consumer protection. If we intend to foster and maintain the kind of society in which all Americans are able to enjoy the blessings of liberty that our Constitution promises by controlling the direction of their lives, then we must make it a point to arm our fellow citizens with the wherewithal to stand on their own 2 feet, as Nan just quoted, and make sustainable economic choices. And that does mean, and I'm going to say it across America, financial education has to be as fundamental to us as the education we're required to receive in U.S. history and government. Ours is a broken up society where we have political governmental orders on the one side and a lot of room for free market of economics on the other. People have to be prepared to participate in both. That's what will make successful citizens in this country. Within the framework of our republic, we've built the greatest system of economic liberty in the history of mankind. Yet it will only endure if we take the steps necessary to strengthen that system from the bottom up, starting with the individual. The financial services marketplace, and we see this very closely now, is constantly evolving in complex ways, and managing one's finances is a lifelong challenge and a lifelong endeavor. To this end, teaching kids about money should not be reserved to a few games of family night Monopoly, where children are taught the benefits of buying up Boardwalk and Park Place, though that is a good strategy. Parents need to be engaged as their children are learning to master the concepts of personal financial management. Children form their financial identities early, and it's important for parents to talk to their children about money at an early age. But we also need to face the hard reality that it's probably unrealistic at the outset to think that we can count on these matters to be taught successfully in the home. For many families, as we just saw with the video, personal finances are a taboo subject. They're also a source of friction and anxiety that parents often strive to keep hidden from their children, the last thing they would want to talk about. Moreover, the vast majority of parents have little background in these matters, as you know, other than what they've derived from their own, sometimes difficult experiences. And they lack the confidence to impart good lessons to anyone else. Whenever I've been involved, and I know you have this experience, in financial education programs in the classroom, invariably we hear later from some of the children that their parents wondered where they could find similar lessons for themselves. So we must start by filling this gap and being more deliberate about pursuing financial education in our schools. Failure to do this condemns boys and girls to make the same mistakes others have made before them, and means we're enrolling them very consciously in the school of hard knocks. That phrase is a facetious one, reflecting this is no school at all, but just an unsatisfactory place where people will keep on making the same mistakes others made before them, with the same poor results and the same lasting regrets. Everyone sees this when they focus on what goes on around them, yet it is now 2013, and as just noted, many states, the vast majority of states, have no requirement at all to ensure that their young people receive such instruction. To put the matter simply, that has to change. It is unconscionable and indefensible that we seem so content to do a lousy job on these matters of such undeniable importance. It's unacceptable for this country. Earlier this year, the Consumer Bureau published a report that assembled and synthesized all the best thinking we could find, much of it generated by people in this room I know, on how these issues should be addressed in K through 12 education. To start with, we strongly recommended, like I said earlier, that financial education must start early and must be continuous. We need to develop integrated curricula in our schools where the benefits of compound interest are understood in math class, where economic costs and risks are taught in social studies class, and where essays in English class include topics involving money, what it is, how it has evolved, how we use it, how we keep it safe. None of this distracts one whit from the classroom agenda. In fact, children pay more attention and get more engaged with things that interest them. And when it comes to money, young people definitely get it. Almost universally, they view money as fascinating and important. We also suggested that part of the answer is to incorporate financial concepts into standardized tests that states already administer. Indeed, many tests around the country already incorporate some real-life examples of money management or economic decision-making, but we could do much more. We could be much more intentional about this. Whatever is on the standardized tests heavily influences what is taught in the classroom. And by the way, if you look back at math textbooks from a century ago, I learned from one of you, you find that they contain extensive discussions about financial choices, how to construct a budget, and the like. I recently sent away and bought some of these textbooks from 100 years ago, and they're all about money management. We need to regain that common sense focus on how the things we're learning relate directly to our everyday financial lives, which need not be that difficult to do. This is especially true at the high school level. Many of you see how students begin their economic lives in earnest as teenagers. Regardless of whether they're earning money at their first job, as I did in high school, McDonald's, figuring out how to pay for gas or go out with their friends, or building a college savings account, people begin to experience financial life while they're still fairly young and often well before they go out on their own. These students are more likely to retain financial knowledge when they apply financial concepts to what's actually happening in their lives, right then and right there. We must capitalize on these teachable moments in personal situations. Indeed, experiential learning, as many of you are demonstrating, can be a very effective way to approach financial education with the young people of this generation. Hands-on efforts such as school bank programs, entrepreneurship training, and games or other forms of simulations can help students deepen their financial knowledge and build financial capability. And the threshold of adulthood is exactly the right time to lock in the commitment and the know-how to lead purposeful economic lives. To borrow a phrase we will be using along this spectrum, young people need to be convinced of the importance of friending your future self by making sound and sustainable financial decisions that you can live with over time. One of the most lasting financial decisions that many young people will make has to do with taking out student loans to pay for further education. Many parents feel pressure to send their child to the best school possible, often making the decision based on rankings and other factors that ignore or discount the true cost of an education. At the Consumer Bureau, we're working directly on this issue and helping students and their parents. Our Paying for College set of tools, available on our website at consumerfinance.gov, and I urge you to check those out and use them, is designed to help families consider their options and assess the costs and risks in terms that are easier to understand. These tools show students what their monthly debt payment would be at graduation, depending on their choice of schools and the aid packages available. They help students weigh the burden posed by their projected debt load based on the nationwide average starting salary of a new graduate, that is, those who do get jobs. In short, they help students and families who may be facing this intimidating challenge for the first time in their lives to ask the right questions so they can make more informed decisions. Equally important, the Paying for College tool set encourages the types of purposeful planning about financial choices that is so critical to building up financial capabilities. These are skills that benefit students not just in post-secondary education, but throughout their entire lives. To construct a more financially capable America, we must develop a knowledge base that gets passed on to others in a more rigorous and systematic way. Fashioning bridges of experience between peoples is the mark of all great societies. Building upon what others have done is a hallmark of civilization. It's the basis of education and the primary means of improving life for the next generation. The same approach is amply justified in the field of financial education. Up to now, we have fallen, let's be candid, woefully short. But I'm certain that we can and will do better by focusing our efforts on 3 items. The first is basic financial literacy, understanding the tools that are the building blocks of financial life for American consumers today, such as budgeting, bank account products, credit cards, credit reports. Second is an awareness of certain everyday choices which create incremental changes in your life that loom larger with the passage of time, such as efforts to save money consistently and efforts to prepare for retirement. Third is a recognition that some major decisions are so crucial in their own right that they can affect the entire trajectory of your life, such as decisions about paying for further education, buying a home, and the like. If you handle these major life decisions correctly, you will likely prosper. If you handle them poorly, you will multiply your troubles or perhaps run aground altogether, as so many have done. The Consumer Bureau will increasingly come to serve as an impartial, agenda-free, neutral source of expert advice on all these fronts for American consumers to rely on as they manage their affairs. But we recognize that to succeed, we will need strong partners. There's far too much work for any of us to do by ourselves. You know that best. The Council for Economic Education is a key leader in this effort, and your comprehensive lesson plans provide great support to teachers across this country. At the Consumer Bureau, we too believe it is critical to support teachers and schools with the training that is needed to deliver sound financial instruction to students. These efforts do not have to be expensive. There are many creative opportunities. But we do need to support those who need and want to know more. Good training programs will help teachers gain the confidence to deal with the issues raised by this increasingly complex financial marketplace that American households now deal with every day. And my own experience with teacher training in Ohio makes clear that bringing people together, this group today, who are passionate about financial education, generates an infectious enthusiasm. The new relationships lend to cross-pollination that spawn new and unforeseen ideas about how to reach students most effectively. I know that many of you in this room have dedicated decades of your lives to delivering on this promise. We're grateful for your efforts, and we want you to know that the new Consumer Bureau is standing alongside you. To help enable an even more collaborative effort, the Consumer Bureau just launched an online learning community of K-12 financial educators at LinkedIn. We organized this growing forum to share best practices and ideas, and we invite you to join us. As we listen to the wealth of expertise today, I want to underscore that our schools do so many things. They foster community service and a love for the arts, as well as an appreciation for teamwork and athletic achievement. And despite some of the metrics that show us lagging behind internationally in some categories, America's schools still produce a great workforce as well as some of the best minds in the world. We have dedicated, passionate teachers in this country, and each one of us can recall many teachers as formative, positive influences in their lives. I certainly can. Financial education over the vast expanse of this country is a daunting challenge, but it is one we know we can master if we simply have the will to stick with it. It's inspiring to know that so many of us share this conviction, and we look forward to working with all of you. I want to close with the words of the great economist Herbert Stein, who said, simply, if something cannot go on forever, it will stop. We saw this economic law at work in the financial crisis when a cycle of destructive behavior came to a crashing halt. Fortunately, we're now making a new start. The neglect of financial education also cannot go on forever in this country, and it is time to stop it. We have a chance to seize this moment and arm our young people with the skills and support they need to build a brighter financial future for themselves, for their families, for our communities, and for our nation. I'm convinced that the force of our joint efforts will win the day. Thank you.